Hello everyone, friends. Liuba is here with you, and today we will prepare a very tasty Ferrero mousse pastry inspired by the famous candies. At the center of the delicate caramel mousse is a soft chocolate hazelnut filling, and at the base of the pastry there is a thin chocolate hazelnut sponge with a crunchy layer. And of course, the Rocher Glaze on the outside is that very image of the candy, only presented as a refined, elegant dessert. Let us start cooking. We start with the chocolate hazelnut filling. We will need milk chocolate, cream with a fat content of 33%, gelatin that has been soaked in advance, a pinch of fleur de sel if desired, and hazelnut paste. The chocolate needs to be melted. It is more convenient to do this directly in the glass in which we will work with the immersion blender. In a small saucepan, combine the cream with the bloomed gelatin and heat to between 50 and 60 degrees until the gelatin has completely dissolved. Pour the hot cream with gelatin onto the chocolate, mix thoroughly, then add the hazelnut paste and use an immersion blender to combine until uniform. The mixture will be thick and smooth. If you are using salt, add it at this stage at the very end. For convenience, I transfer the mixture into a pastry bag and immediately fill the molds. I use a silicone sphere mold. It can also be found labeled as a truffle mold. The dimensions of all the molds will be indicated in the description under the video. When the cavities are filled, I gently tap the mold on the surface so that the mixture distributes evenly and place it in the freezer until it is completely frozen. In the meantime, we will make the sponge. For the sponge, combine the dry ingredients: wheat flour, hazelnut flour, baking powder, a pinch of salt, and cocoa powder. I always sift the cocoa powder so that there are no lumps. Mix everything together well with a whisk. Add the sugar to the eggs and beat thoroughly. The mixture will gradually increase noticeably in volume, lighten in color, and become airy and fluffy. The sugar will dissolve completely, and the whisk beaters will begin to leave ridges on the surface. This is the result we need. Now in 2 stages, we add the dry ingredients and fold them in with a spatula. We do not use the mixer at this stage. When the first portion of the dry ingredients has been incorporated, add the remaining ones. Do not mix for long so that the batter does not deflate. Work fairly quickly. Now add a small portion of the batter to the melted butter and mix well with a spatula until the mixture is uniform. Return this mixture to the main batter and fold quickly yet carefully so that you obtain a beautiful thick batter. Immediately pour the batter into the frame and bake in a preheated oven. The temperature is from 170 to 175 degrees. The time is from 10 to 12 minutes. Check for doneness with a skewer and do not overdry the sponge. The sponge turned out this beautiful. Remove it from the frame, allow it to cool completely, and before slicing, chill it, and if desired, freeze it slightly, so it will not get compressed and the cut will be even. After chilling, it is convenient to work with. Punch out discs for the insert. Look at the texture of the sponge. I trim off the thin top crust to level the height and so that it does not separate later in the pastry. Let us prepare the crunchy layer. For it, we will need caramelized wafer, chocolate, I use a mix of darkened milk, and hazelnut paste. The chocolate must be melted, combined well with the hazelnut paste, poured over the wafer, and mixed thoroughly so the entire wafer is coated with the chocolate hazelnut mixture. Now spread the crunchy layer onto each sponge disc and distribute it evenly. The layer should not be thick so that it does not become coarse, yet it should still be distinctly noticeable. This is one of the most beloved textures in desserts. To assemble the pastries, they need to be frozen. Before preparing the mousse and assembling the pastries, I remove the frozen filling from the molds so that I will not have to switch my attention to it later, and so that it can freeze even more thoroughly without the molds. Immediately return the filling to the freezer. Let us move on to preparing the caramel mousse. We will need sugar, milk, 33% cream for the caramel, egg yolks, 33% cream for whipping, and gelatin pre-soaked in cold water. As always, we begin by preparing the semi-whipped cream. The cream for whipping must be very well chilled. I additionally chill the bowl and the whisk. Whip, gradually increasing the speed, until the volume increases several times. The cream will become very airy, with tiny bubbles, will thicken slightly, yet will remain fluid without forming peaks. The trace left by the whisk holds for several seconds and then disappears, and the consistency resembles slightly melted ice cream. Immediately place the cream in the refrigerator until use. Beat the yolks with a whisk until smooth. In a small saucepan, combine the cream and the milk and heat until wisps of steam appear, as hot as possible yet without bringing it to a boil. At the same time, preheat the saucepan in which we will cook the caramel. When the bottom is thoroughly heated, add part of the sugar and, gently shaking the saucepan, spread it over the surface. Since the bottom is hot, the sugar begins to melt immediately. With movements of the saucepan, help the melted sugar combine with the crystals. Sprinkle the next portion of sugar into the melted sugar and, while holding the saucepan in the air and rocking it, help the crystals dissolve in the melted sugar. Then pour in the remaining sugar and, using the same motions, combine it with the caramel. When most of the sugar has melted, switch to stirring with a heat-resistant spatula, aiming for complete dissolution of all the sugar crystals. Periodically lift the saucepan and stir while holding it above the heat so the caramel does not burn. As a result, the mixture should become completely homogeneous, free of any granules, with a deep amber color. The temperature will reach between 170 and 180 degrees. At this moment, pour a portion of the hot cream into the caramel, allow the caramel to loosen slightly, then add the remaining cream. It is important that the milk and cream mixture be as hot as possible. If it has cooled down a little, be sure to heat it again. Then stir until smooth and cook for literally 1 to 2 minutes over medium heat, stirring constantly so that the remaining bits of caramel dissolve completely. It is not necessary to cook it down. As soon as the mixture becomes homogeneous, remove it from the stove immediately. Allow the mixture to settle for literally half a minute, after which begin tempering the yolks. In a thin stream, while whisking vigorously, pour the caramel into the yolks. Then return the mixture to the saucepan. Place it on the stove and, stirring with a spatula, cook the custard until the temperature reaches between 82 and 83 degrees until the yolks are pasteurized. I rely not only on the thermometer, but also on external signs. You will feel and see how the mixture begins to thicken. I remove the saucepan from the heat a few degrees earlier, because the heat of the saucepan will bring the mixture to the desired temperature, and if you overheat it even by a couple of degrees, the cream can curdle instantly. This is the resulting cream, homogeneous, slightly thickened, with the bottom of the saucepan clean. Immediately add the bloomed gelatin to the hot cream and stir thoroughly until it dissolves completely. Now, in order to be combined with the cream, the custard needs to cool to 30 degrees. I pour it into a shallow container so it cools quickly and evenly. When the custard has cooled and thickened, I pour it into a glass for convenience. I gently stir the half-whipped cream from the refrigerator with a spatula to restore its uniformity, and while stirring constantly, pour the caramel custard into the cream in a thin stream. When all of the custard has been added, I continue stirring until everything is fully combined and a completely homogeneous mousse is obtained. Look at how beautiful the mousse turns out. We move on to assembling the pastries. I use sphere molds. I will specify their sizes in the description below the video. Fill each cavity with mousse approximately halfway. Then insert the frozen filling into the center, gently press it down, cover it with mousse, and add a little more mousse on top. We finish assembling with the sponge cake, placing it into the mousse with the crispy layer facing the mousse. The pastries fill the cavity all the way to the top. If necessary, we level the surface. Place the mold in the freezer until it is completely frozen. When the pastries have frozen completely, before glazing, we remove them from the molds and immediately place them back in the freezer. We do the same as with the filling so that they freeze all the way through without the molds. To coat the pastries, we will prepare Rocher Glaze. For it, we will need chocolate. I am using darkened milk, roasted chopped hazelnuts, neutral vegetable oil, and hazelnut paste for additional nutty flavor and aroma. Add the vegetable oil and hazelnut paste to the melted chocolate and emulsify thoroughly with an immersion blender until smooth. Next, stir in the chopped hazelnuts and mix well. The glaze is ready. I work with the glaze at about 32 degrees. Here it is important to find the temperature at which it spreads in a smooth, thin layer. I spear the pastry on a wooden skewer. In one swift motion, dip it into the glaze, then lift it out, allow the excess to drip off, and scrape the remainder against the rim of the glass. I place the pastry on a cake board and with a gentle twisting motion remove the skewer. Another method can also be used, pouring the glaze over the top after setting the pastry on a wire rack. I use both methods. Friends, the pastries are ready. They turned out incredibly beautiful and appetizing, striking and elegant, without anything unnecessary and without being overwhelming. In order for the pastries to thaw properly, place them in the refrigerator right away and allow them to defrost there. We taste the pastries after a complete and gradual thaw. This is what they look like when cut open: delicate, airy caramel mousse, soft chocolate hazelnut filling, and a thin sponge cake with a crunchy layer. All of it wonderfully flavorful and full of texture. A fail-proof combination of hazelnut and milk chocolate, complemented by caramel notes. This is the interpretation of Ferrero that emerged in the format of a modern mousse pastry. Friends, it is absolutely delicious. Be sure to try it. And that is all from me. I thank you for your attention. I will see you in upcoming videos. Bye-bye.